First slide really gives you the idea of how we've made progress at every single step in interventional vascular procedures in terms of overcoming the problems of the previous generation of device. Of course, we start with POBA, we go with bare metal stents, first generation DES, second generation DES, and then we have DCBs, which we're going to discuss really today in detail. And I think we had the attempt at BVS, the bioabsorbable vascular scaffolds, which really didn't quite work the way we wanted to work. But I would pose to you that DCBs with Limus are really the answer to overcoming some of the problems with DCBs that elute paclitaxel. So these are the current devices approved for peripheral artery disease in terms of DCBs. And you can see in the United States, there are much less of these, but they share one thing in common, that is paclitaxel. All of them basically have a coating of paclitaxel with some sort of excipient carrier, and the doses of paclitaxel, of course, vary from balloon to balloon. Each has its own proprietary makeup. The idea behind the paclitaxel DCBs, of course, is that we have crystalline paclitaxel, which really forms a depot that allows sustained drug delivery. And you can see, if the slide will advance, that you can see here on the histological views, the crystalline material that forms on the intimal surface really sticks there and then elutes paclitaxel over time, giving you the effect of producing reduction in neonatal formation. Now, the problem, of course, is coating integrity. Coating integrity for these balloons is very variable. And the issue becomes we really have not very good drug transfer from the balloon to the wall, leaving a lot of loss of paclitaxel that occurs in the bloodstream. And of course, we know from history that paclitaxel is not a benign drug. It's a drug used to treat cancers. And it's very well known to have a dose-dependent toxicity on bone marrow suppression, other aspects. It's well recognized. So loss of paclitaxel into the body, the sort of poor efficacy of drug delivery are all issues that have been created by this technology. And of course, we know there were successes. This is the paclitaxel-eluting balloons for AVF stenosis, New England Journal for Medtronic, and of course the Lutonix device both got approval for AVF. So we've had success in terms of preventing restenosis. But we've also had a lot of problems, and that is that we know that sirolimus is the standard for coronary artery disease. There are no more paclitaxel-eluting stents, at least for CAD treatment, and it's really been proven to be safe and effective. It's been placed into millions of people. There's no questions about it. This paclitaxel modifications mean coating integrity is really a transfer variable with loss of paclitaxel, and that loss of paclitaxel really was the concern, I think, that allowed us to really dig further into the Katsanos meta-analysis and end up in a quandary. And these are just findings from studies we've conducted below. We know that downstream emboli occur with paclitaxel. You can find it in downstream beds once you've deployed a balloon. That's clearly been shown in preclinical models. We know in angioplasty models, when you deploy paclitaxel balloons in the coronary, you get slow flow, you get poor flow reserve, poor coronary flow reserve, and emboli. Some of that slow flow is from the embolization of paclitaxel. And this was the, I think, most concerning study of Katsanos published a number of years ago, showing that there was an increase in all-cause death at 2 years and at 5 years in this meta-analysis of paclitaxel-eluting devices versus controlled non-drug devices, showing increased rates of death. And this was really the beginning of a lot of concern with the paclitaxel technologies. And of course, there was the SWEDE-PAD analysis that was done recently. That was a randomized trial done of non-coated versus coated drug devices. There was a sub-analysis done of that showing no increase in death. But the concerns still are existing, and the FDA is really hasn't quite cleared the safety of paclitaxel products. And if you look at the amount of paclitaxel delivered on a balloon, you can see they're basically milligram dosages. The longer the balloon, the more the paclitaxel delivered to the patient. Now, sirolimus, of course, has equal, if not better, neointimal suppression than paclitaxel. It, most importantly, has a wide therapeutic range. It doesn't have the same kind of issues with toxicity that paclitaxel has, better anti-restenotic effect. Of course, the problem with sirolimus and the reason why it really wasn't the first choice for balloons is tissue absorption is simply not as good. Slow, and tissue retention is very short. Without some sort of carrier, excipient, product to hold it there, it doesn't stay in the arterial wall, whereas paclitaxel has those kind of advantages. And this is a study of coronary stents showing you TLR. Overall, in coronary stents, paclitaxel-eluting stents versus sirolimus-eluting stents, sirolimus is superior in terms of TLR and neonatal suppression. So if we could enhance tissue absorption, we would improve our ability to make a sirolimus-coated balloon. And we have to also extend tissue retention. We have to release that. We have to get it to the wall, glue it to the wall, and then we have to release it over time for it to be successful. And really, two products I'm going to highlight today, just giving you a taste of what's out there and what's coming, because they will be coming. This is the Magic Touch balloon, which is basically delivers sub-micron phospholipid particles, which encase sirolimus to the arterial wall. And you can see in PK studies that we've done in our lab, you can see the sirolimus tissue levels of drug in the arterial wall in this coronary model are sustained out to at least 30 and a little bit to 60 days. So you get sustained release of sirolimus using this technology. And we did a preclinical study in this Quine coronary ISR model. This is a model where in the coronary, we make an in-stent restenosis with a bare metal stent, and then we treat that in-stent restenosis with a drug-eluting balloon, and we euthanize the animal 28 days later. And you can see here the Magic Touch on the left, plain old balloons on the right. We treated an in-stent restenosis, and you can see they basically look the same in terms of arterial wall histology here, but you really do see more fibrin with the Magic Touch balloon, and that's shown here in the histology. I will show you if the slide will advance here. Here you can see that, we don't really look at this as efficacy like we look in humans. In these animal models, it's hard to prove efficacy. It's much easier to prove safety and some sort of biologic efficacy. If you look here, stenosis was not different, but struts with fibrin with a Magic Touch are significantly greater than the POBA, showing you there was some drug effect of the sirolimus on the arterial wall. And most importantly, the FDA is really wanting us to look at downstream beds, to look at whether we see some embolized product from this device in the downstream arterial beds. And in this particular study we conducted, we only saw 2 downstream myocardial sections from Magic Touch and 3 from POBA that had evidence of perhaps some microscopic scarring, not infarction, and there were no direct visual evidence of downstream emboli. So really an improvement over some of the paclitaxel devices in terms of that. Now this is the Solution Meta-Alliance balloon. This is also available in Europe. This is a different product. It again has these micro reservoirs made up of a polymer, a really biodegradable polymer, which encases sirolimus. And it has this novel cell adherent technology called a CAT membrane, which helps to improve transfer of sirolimus to the wall. And here's a study we did again in the porcine coronary model. This was a de novo model. We used the balloon, both 1x and 3x of the solution balloon versus a POBA, and looked at the arterial wall histology at 30 days. And what you see is you really see a very good dose-dependent effect of the balloon on smooth muscle cell loss as well as fibrin score. That's evidence of drug effect. You can see as the dose was increased from 1x to 3x of the solution in green and orange, you can see dose-dependent increase in smooth muscle cell loss as well as more fibrin. So really successful in terms of drug delivery. And you can see here, there was some downstream emboli shown, but it was really no different from a non-coated balloon. So really, we were able to show that there were no ischemic areas, but there was some evidence of coating. It's going to be probably impossible to make a drug-coated balloon without some evidence of downstream emboli. So I think in conclusion, I've showed you, I believe sirolimus is the preferred drug for intravascular interventions. Paclitaxel-coated balloons are limited by high rates of distal embolization, a loss of paclitaxel into the body. And these were concerns that only heightened the Katsanos meta-analysis and blew it up into a worldwide controversy. That was one of the problems. Of course, Magic Touch and Solution sirolimus-coated balloons demonstrate successful drug transfer to the wall. Both have received CE mark approval with FDA submission ongoing. I think you'll see them in the clinic. And I think what we'll realize soon is that sirolimus-coated balloons will become an important technology for the treatment of PAD going forward. With that, I'd like to thank you for your attention.